What's going on, guys? I'm Bobby Light, and today we're going to be doing some patch notes for the new patch that came out for Season 4. So, let's go. First of all, it says it's patch 4.1, and it's 4.1 because the 4 is Season 4, and point 1 because it's the first patch of the season. So there will be more throughout the season that they throw in to fix bugs and stuff like that. And it only took me about 15 minutes to update, so it shouldn't take you very long. And there's a variety of things that were changed in this patch as far as like ranked game changes, like in-game major stuff. They have a lot of champion nerfs and tweaks and bug fixes. Jungle items and other items get fixed or nerfed or buffed or whatever. And they have a lot of turret changes that happened in this patch. So let's start off with the ranked game changes, and this is a lot of like the workings of how you get ranked in a certain division. So let's see, it's now possible to be demoted from, say, you're Silver 5 or Gold 5, and before you could be Silver 5 or Gold 5 and had no worry of being demoted to Bronze 1 or Silver 1, for your respective position. And that was a problem, they said, because people were just ruining games on purpose for people trying to get up, and it was just a bad situation to be in. So what they did instead is you will only be demoted if you play not every game, if your MMR is a whole tier below what your actual rank is. So let's say, for example, you're Gold 5, right? You're Gold 5, but you're playing with the Silver, with an MMR equal to that of a Silver 5 player, and then you would be demoted to, say, Silver 1. So it's kind of hard to get demoted unless you really take a break or something and you come back and you're not really doing too hot. But there's not really a big fear of getting demoted if you just play your best in your division, because it'll automatically place you in the division that you should probably be in. And now they changed LP is how you go up or down depending on your rank in ranked. So another example, say I'm Silver 5, right, and I want to get up to Silver 4 and eventually to Gold 5, right? So I need to get a lot of LP. So I think it's 100 LP, and then I get a chance at 3 games. And if I win 3 of those games, or if I win 2 of the 3 games, I get promoted, and if I don't, I stay where I'm at, and then I go back to 0 LP. So your LP is pretty much like a ladder of points that you get from winning and losing. So say you lose a game, you lose some LP. If you win a game, you win, say, 20 or 25 LP or something like that, and you build your way up to 100 for another chance. And they changed the LP games to be more regular and like base throughout divisions of 5 through 3. They were fine, and the only thing they fixed was 1 and 2. So when you're in 1 and 2 and you're trying to go up, it's gonna give you the same amount of LP as it would if you were in 3, 4, and 5. Because before, if you were in 1 or 2 and you were trying to get LP, it would lower the amount of LP that you're getting per win. So that's gonna help you level up a lot easier, and they pretty much fixed that to be a lot more enjoyable and less stressful. Okay, so now on to the champion fixes or buffs or nerfs or whatever you want to call them, as champion changes. First off, you have Anivia. Anivia gets a buff on all her abilities and her basic attack. Her basic attack speed goes up, and like mana costs and that stuff goes down, some cooldowns go down. So she's getting a big buff, and her ult does a lot more damage. And it indicates you when you're by your max range of your ult, and if there's a champion on that outer ring. So that's it for Anivia. For Annie, you have a stun duration nerf. So early in the game, Annie can be very scary as a support because you get stunned and you're in trouble because the stun lasts like 2 seconds or something like that. So they brought that stun duration down a lot, and her ult cooldown is reduced, so you can use Tivers a lot more to kind of even out with her stun reduction. So for Annie, you want to stun first, and since you don't have a long reduction, pop Tivers on right away and get some damage. And that's it for Annie. For Evelyn, they nerfed Evelyn pretty hard. They put her right into the ground. Her Q and E got a heavy damage nerf, and her ult reaction time was fixed. So say sometimes with Evelyn, this is actually a good thing for Evelyn players, because sometimes with your ult you would cast your ult and you would die before it would actually come into play. So it would count as you using it, but you actually didn't use it. So on to Janna. She just gets a freaking mega ult buff. It does more healing. It has more healing per second. Pushes the enemies back, but the duration is reduced to second, which I mean isn't really that big a deal, but it channels immediately too. So that's you get the insta reward for using your ult as Janna. And now on to Jinx. She has a lower base HP, but she gains more HP per level. So when she levels up, she gets more AP than she would have. I mean HP than she would have gotten before the patch. And they also fixed a bug on her E, the flame chompers. They don't arm as fast, so you can't just throw them right under somebody and hit them. They actually have to like walk through it deliberately to get caught by it. And Nasus, they reduce his wither range, which is pretty good because that was kind of ridiculous. He would wither you from across the lane, and then he would just come up and siphon strike you. And they also nerfed his ult pretty hard, where it decreases the range increase when he uses his ult on his W and his E. So his Q still has that extra range. His basic attacks have the range, but he can't just wither you and ult you and you're dead anymore. So that's good news for top lane players who don't play Nasus. And now on to people that play Rengar. They fixed his cast bugs on his Q, which is kind of bad because he would be able to like pop it like 3 times, like in a very short time before. So it takes more time to cast his Q now, and they tweaked his W. It pretty much stayed the same, but it messed around with the healing a little bit, like 1% or 2% change. So it's really not that big a deal. So Rengar didn't really get too much of a change, just a little bit. And on to the biggest nerf, which I'm personally very happy about. Riven got a mega nerf in here, and she's pretty much, I wouldn't say obsolete, but she's not half as good as she was before. So let's get into it. She has a lower basic attack damage, so like she can come up to you and hit you before, and you would just start getting drained. So they lowered that big time, but they did up her attack speed a little bit. But I don't think that's really gonna cover for the AD drop. Excuse me. Now onto her Q. The damage on that was like half. Like the damage on that is just crazy weak now, and it's really not that strong. And her shield duration was decreased by like an entire second. So that's gonna really hurt her shield and her survivability. So I'm really glad Riven got nerfed. And also, Shyvana got nerfed pretty hard too. Her W does a lot lower damage, so she's not just going to pop that little spinny thing and just kind of take you down anymore. And her damage on her E was lowered for when she's in dragon form, and her ult was had a fix on the damage or something. It said that it was doing a certain amount of damage, but now it does a little bit less than it said it did. And on the Thresh, they fixed his little lantern toss, so now when people are trying to run to it and click on it to go, they have to get closer to the lantern. They can't just click it and be like half a lane away and just escape. So they have to be like right on top of it pretty much now. And it has a lower, the ult wall, his ult is like a big box, and the wall formation went from I think 0.5 seconds to 0.75 seconds, so it takes a little bit longer to deploy, but it still has the same slowing effect, and Thresh is still very strong. I just think it was a little bit unnecessary of a nerf, because it wasn't really that annoying, but I didn't see why they did that. Anyway, Yasuo, I would call it a buff. They said they just kind of smoothed them out a little bit, but I would say it's a buff, because now his Q is all smart cast, so you don't have to worry about Q and then clicking, so you can just Q where your cursor is on your screen, it'll go for his Q. So now he when you get that triple stack and he throws the wind wall, or not the wind wall, I'm sorry, that like the hurricane knock-up thing, you don't have to control it, you just hit Q and it automatically goes, which is either good or bad depending on whether you smart cast. He has a W bug fix on his wall. It doesn't block any friendly Syndra orbs anymore, which was kind of humorous when you saw that happening. And then his ult also gives his shield, it refills his flow once he gives in and hits the guys, so it's going to give him a lot more survivability in team fights, and it is a lot faster, so that it doesn't take as much time to actually do the damage, because you would knock him up, you would get on him, and then like your team would get the kill before you could kill. So it goes a lot faster. And that's gonna do it. That's gonna be it for the champion changes. So now we're gonna go on to major item changes. And the Sunfire Cape got a big nerf. I wouldn't call it too big, but it's a 15 damage per second nerf. So it went from 40 seconds to 25 per second. So that's a pretty big damage nerf for such an item that relies on its passive very much. They also did Spirit Visage, which reduces cooldown reduction to 10% from 20%. So I mean, it's still pretty strong either way, although they did half the cooldown reduction. Percentage-wise. And now onto the jungle spirit items. So you have like Spirit of the Ancient Golem, the Lizard, and the Wraith. And what they did with those is a pretty cool rework. I think it's actually a little bit better than it was before, because you get a stronger... Okay, let's start off like this. You get no mana or HP regen over time. So you can't just run around ganking and get HP and mana back constantly. You have to be in the jungle and you have to be killing the minions or the monsters. So, for example, now you have extra life steal and mana steal, I guess you could call it, when you kill monsters. So you're getting the same effect, but now the jungler can't just run around and have mana and health out the butt. So that's really a good nerf. They thought that well for the throw. They fixed it well. And that's gonna do it for items. Now turrets. They did a little rework on the turrets. I kind of like it. I don't know. It's not as good for top and mid laners, but for bot laners it's pretty good, because the top excuse me, the top and mid outer turrets have 20 damage reduction from champion basic attacks. So say you're sitting there trying to take the turret real quick, and you're just not really having as much progress as you would before, because it's 20 damage less per hit. And you're having no magic resist or bonus armor for the first 8 minutes of the game for on the towers. So if you can take a tower in the first 8 minutes of the game, that's probably your best bet of getting up early in lane. So now you're not going to want to back as much if you get a kill early in lane. You're going to want to go for that turret and take it down as fast as possible before the 8-minute mark. And that's pretty much going to do it for the patch notes. If you have any questions, I'll give you a link to the patch notes in the description. So have a good day and good luck in your games.